Good afternoon, everyone. Hello and welcome to the second webinar in our new series, Powering a Modern Workplace with Sparkrock 365. And today we will be discussing why your finance team will thank you for migrating. I'm Jenny Lawrence, a customer success representative here at Sparkrock, and I will be your moderator for today's event. So before we get started, it is my pleasure to welcome our main speakers for today's webinar. It is James Faw and Stephanie Gunn. James is the Chief Technology Officer and co-founder here at Sparkrock and has been involved with over 150 implementations since he started here at Sparkrock in 2003. In addition to having over 20 years of experience in the technology sector, James has worked in both for-profit and nonprofit spaces, which provided him with a well-rounded understanding of what our clients need when it comes to technology. Stephanie is our senior finance consultant here at Sparkrock, and chances are many of you know her very well. For the past 3 years, she has been helping our customers with the delivery of finance products and ensuring the continuous improvement of Sparkrock's finance tools. Needless to say, you are all in good hands on today's webinar. So with that, James, please take it away.
Thank you so much, Jenny, and good afternoon, everybody. We're looking forward to giving you some insight into what Sparkrock 365 looks like. So as Jenny mentioned, this is our Powering a Modern Workplace series with Sparkrock 365. And so today we're really going to focus on the financial areas and give you, first of all, a survey of the major enhancements, and then zero in on some specific areas with Stephanie in a demonstration of those specific areas. And as Jenny mentioned as well, we're happy to take questions. Please ask those questions. You can use the information panel to submit them, and we'll go over them at the end. So just to lay the groundwork, these are the enhancements that are in the finance and procurement area of the solution. So this is the high level of all of the different areas that we've enhanced. So hopefully you can see there's lots of check marks in a few new areas of the system, completely net new areas. But I can say that our product and development teams have spent time going through almost every single page in the application and really reconsidering it, how to optimize it, how to make it more efficient, and then how to deliver it within our new application platform, which is fully responsive and available on mobile, tablet, and web-based applications. So a few of the major enhancements are role centers, just to highlight those. So we've got brand new role centers for accounting manager, purchasing agent, accounts payable coordinator, and accounts receivable that come with their own set of clickable charts and things like that are pretty exciting. And then so sort of refreshes to those role centers and net new ones to department manager and security administrator. So those are completely net new role centers that haven't existed in previous versions of the software. And so Stephanie's going to talk a little bit more about the department manager, but that's the area functionality specifically for individuals that own a narrow slice of the budget and how they see their financial information. So moving down, you can see some enhancements in accounts payables and EFT, some more in accounts receivable, fixed assets, even over in cash management, a standard import with your ability to create a mapping of that file, so we can modify it to match your bank's file using a setup configuration tool in the system. Again, lots of enhancements to the chart of accounts and dimensions and how validations happen there. So some exciting things there, and also the workflows around those. Fund accounting, also lots of enhancements there. And requisitions is, again, an area that we're going to focus and give you some perspective on. We've moved that out of the employee center and now into the core product, into the department manager role center. So the huge advantage with that is the ability to deliver it a mobile user experience for our users. So stay tuned for that, and lots of enhancements to approval workflows where we've been able to layer in almost all of the feature requests that our customers have submitted over the ideas portal. Also, budget checking has been enhanced, as well as the user management with the structure of users. And then, of course, you can see sort of a drill down into the department manager. All of those areas are completely net new. We pulled those areas out of the employee center and moved them into the core product to allow users to leverage that full mobile, tablet, and web client user experience. So this is the quick survey of those. I want to step back for a second and just remind you of sort of where we're at in this webcast journey. So on June 25th, last Thursday, we spent time talking about why a Microsoft Cloud Foundation matters. And so I spent time along with Jane showing you some of the platform features, the edit in Excel, the send to Excel, the Outlook inbox, some really exciting features. And so if you didn't get a chance to attend that, please go back and take a look at that. You'll find some really interesting information there under the overall platform features of the solution. And then today, our focus with Stephanie is on the finance features and enhancements and highlighting the key differences there. And then we have coming up Thursday, July 23rd, Jen and I are going to review the enhancements to workforce, payroll, and scheduling and time entry. So again, highlights in that in the human resources payroll time entry area of the system. And then our final session in the series is with Monica and Angela, and it's really talking about what the process looks like. What would you go through? What are the stages and phases? What to expect? What to prepare for? And so they'll talk you through the process. So all of these are really important in terms of having our customers are ready for using Sparkrock 365 and the many benefits it offers. And so please join us when you can. Okay, so moving forward, I want to zero in on what the application updates really mean for you. So zeroing in on those. And what that really looks like. So really, we're focused on delivering to you new and better ways of doing the same things. So a lot of the processes and functions that are in the solution have not been completely changed. You don't need to change your business processes. We're just delivering them through a streamlined user experience with more flexibility in terms of when and where and how you can use it. We're also offering the remote and mobile access, which in current times, we know has probably shifted in most of our customers' organizations from a nice to have to an actual need to have. So not only, these are true cloud and SaaS deployments that allow you to access the solution from anywhere. We can impose limitations based on requirements from your IT department if we want to, but our default is North America wide. So your individuals can work and access the solution for North America wide without the need of, a VPN or remote access tools. It's also available on any device of your choosing, so mobile or tablet or the desktop user experience. And again, also more intuitive and flexible licensing. So we've changed the licenses and introduced the 3 user license types that we think align better with how our users use the solution. So that's kind of a highlight of the themes. I did, want to point out that these are the updated tile slides. So it's essentially the similar capabilities to what we had in 2016, the same major groupings. We've made some changes to the terminology, but we're offering still the benefits of the fully integrated ERP solution with all of the areas of your finance and procurement and human resources, scheduling, time entry, and payroll fully integrated into a single application. So I wanted to lay the groundwork explaining a little bit more about the user types. So the new user types in Sparkrock 365 are a full user is the first one. And so those would be the same users that were using the role tailor client, the RTC client in 2016. So those would typically be the full users, and that's anybody in accounting, AP, AR, purchasing, HR, payroll, training administrator, a scheduling administrator if you have centralized scheduling function. All of those would be full users. The new user type is the manager user, and so that is anybody that does approval of either HR or financial transactions in the organization needs to have one of these licenses. It's all done through that department manager role center. Also senior management within the organization, if they want to see, this user license gives you actually view access to anything that your security permits. So it's broad view access within the solution with some specific scenarios for data entry. So also department manager who or a user who enters a requisition or approves a requisition, those are all users that would need to have one of these manager user licenses. Also scenarios specifically for maybe a school principal or a school secretary if you're an education organization. And then the last type is the team user. And these are essentially all employees in the organization. So that would give you access to, let's say if you're using finance and procurement, that gives you access to employee expenses. If you're using HR and payroll and scheduling, that would allow you to use employee self-service or to use the scheduling features for a non-supervisor type user. So viewing your schedule, initiating the trade of shifts and things like that, or entering timesheets. So those kinds of scenarios. The other thing that's interesting is that these user licenses are, you can use them concurrently. So I may be a full user and I may be working on the back office solution. Perhaps I'm in purchasing or HR, and so I may be working with my role center in the web client, but I can also use my mobile device to approve a transaction that's come to me for approval at the same time. So you can use, even if you just have one license, you can use multiple devices at the same time. So truly sort of the modern way in which users work with the solution. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand things over to Stephanie to give you a deeper look what that looks like in some specific finance scenarios.
Awesome. Thank you, James. So thank you everyone for joining today. As James mentioned, I'm just going to be taking us through an overview and demonstration of some of the new key enhancements with Sparkrock 365, keeping in mind that all of the core functionalities that you had in 2016 or previous versions are still available. All of our offerings still include all of those core pieces. So we'll really be taking a look today at some of the enhancements, new things that are coming, and things that will really help your organizations move forward. So one of our biggest enhancements that we've had is the addition of the Department Manager Role Center. Now, the Department Manager Role Center, as James went over, is specific to users who are going to be doing requisitioning, who are going to be budget owners, who need a slice of the system in order to see their budget and manage transactions, but they are not necessarily full back office users. So we've added what we've called the Department Manager Role Center, and this brings in requisitions, payment requests, receiving, and purchase invoicing into the core product. So while these pieces used to live in Employee Center, they're now actually in core product and just under a separate role center. So why have we done this? It really improves the user experience. It gives them a lot more functionality and the ability to see further in the system. They have advanced sorting and filtering. It's also a familiar look and feel to Sparkrock 365 as a whole. So it's now all living within the same environment. And it also allows them to personalize their pages and print forms. So it really gives them an enhancement over Employee Center, where everything was kind of just standard and they couldn't really do a whole lot of customization on it. So taking a look at our role center, when users come in, they'll now see this, which is the Department Manager Role Center. Now it looks very similar to a role center that a back office user may have. And if I flip over, this would be our standard Accounting Manager Role Center. So they're really getting a similar look and feel, and it's a little bit easier having one thing within the organization. So within the Department Manager Role Center, it is specifically locked down for those manager users so that they cannot access other areas of the system. So it keeps them doing what they need to do and just gives them access to what they need. So when I come into this page, I can see that I initially have things in my menus like purchase requisitions, payment requests, vendors, expense types, lists, and my administration options. I also have quick actions, which will allow me to quickly start doing something or quickly look at lists like purchase orders and receiving. I also have activities, so I have my little fact boxes here. I can easily drill in and view all of my open requests or look at other items. Additionally, I also have requisition templates and payment request templates, as well as access to product videos. And as well, they have things like insights. So they also get these charts and graphs that will allow them to see different sort of charts, things like requisitions not completed by status. So here I can see open, pending approval, in progress, as well as all of my available tasks. So here I can see open requests and any approvals that I need to do. So one of the great enhancements of the Department Manager Role Center is the ability to look at lists. So lists was something that was missing from Employee Center previously, and it was really something that was requested by a lot of clients. The ability for users to see what vendors can I procure against? What are all of my expense types? What account sets can I use? So these have all been brought in as lists now. So the user can actually drill in and view things like vendors, expense types, and account sets. So if I drill in on vendors, it will show me a filtered view of only the vendors that I have available in my permissions. So if you have things like restricted vendors or vendors that aren't available within requisitioning, they won't be visible here to the users. I also have things like my expense types, which will give me access to everything I can buy. It's almost like a catalog for the users. So if they're just thinking about what they need to do, instead of going and creating a new request, they can just look at an overall view of their expense types. And if you have things like pictures, they can see pictures of the items as well. As well, we have account sets, so users can now see a full list of all their available account sets, which is huge, and I think this has been one of the most requested things from our clients is, our employees really want to know before they start something, what account sets do I have access to? So here now they have a full list and they can use these.
And Stephanie, just to clarify, account sets is the item previously known as dimension combination codes, right?
Sorry, I've been working in 365 for too long now. Yes, so we've renamed what we previously had as dimension combinations to account sets. So they function the same, they're used similarly, but the terminology has changed in 365. So along with that, we do also have our administration items where users can see things like their alternates and their notification settings. So here I can see that I have an alternate available. And finally, you have sort of, if you hit the little hamburger, it gives them an overall menu view of the Department Manager Role Center. So if they're not sure where they need to go, but they just need to see what pages they have access to, this gives them an entire view of everything that they have access to. So from here directly, they can see, oh, yep, I wanted to go to purchase receiving, click on it, and it will bring me directly there. Along with that, as I mentioned, they can now also filter pages, which previously was a little more difficult. They can easily filter pages, add filter totals, and then save those views, similar to what you would be able to do in 2016 and previous versions of NAV. So along with the Department Manager Role Center, we've also added enhancements within requisitioning itself. So within the requisitions, we now have the availability to do separate number series per document type. Previously, both payment requests, which would become an invoice, and purchase requests, which would become a purchase order, ran on the same number series. Now they're separate number series and you can have them separated. We also now have attachments that flow to purchase orders. So any attachments that are added to the purchase requisition will automatically flow over to the purchase order. It makes it easier for users, especially within procurement, in order to see what attachments are there without having to navigate all the way back to the request. We also now have comment lines, so users can add additional comment lines directly within a requisition. And we also have internal and external comments, which allow up to 2,048 characters. There's a ton of places to include information, and there's just a lot more flexibility. We also have customizable print views in order to change the reports like purchase orders and invoices, as well as full audit history from new to approved requests, which is sortable by approval date or approver, or if an alternate has actually approved a request. And if some of you are familiar with our older approvers, our delegates would now be what are our alternate approvers. As well, as I mentioned, we now also have the full list of vendors, expense types, and the account set lists, which will make it a lot easier for users even before they start doing requests. if they need to start thinking about, okay, what do I have access to? Especially if you may have one user who is maybe sourcing the requests from other people within their department and they're the one really doing the request, they could always print out the expense type list and provide that to the other users. So why did we do it? These have all pretty much been hugely requested items from our clients. I think it makes it a lot easier to work within the system, and there's been, a huge improvement. So going into requisitions, so if I click on the purchase requisition page, it will bring me to all the available requisitions that I can see. So here I have my requisitions as well as others because I'm currently in an unfiltered view. I have an administrative view and I can see all users' requests. Now, typically, depending on their setup, users may be able to see requests within their own department, or they may only be able to see their own requests. So within purchase requisitions, I can see here I have some that are pending approval, a couple in progress, as well as some that I'm still working on and are open. So if I click on an open request, it will bring up a request within the system that I'm working on, and I can start looking at it. So you'll see here that the requests have kind of changed in that they now look more similar to the core product. The way that users key these in and enter these, the overall view looks similar to something like a purchase order or a purchase invoice that the finance users would be more comfortable using. So it really makes it a little bit easier because it's a similar view. We're all kind of speaking the same language now. So here it's just a requisition. I can see I'm running my requisition number series for this vendor. So as mentioned, it still has all the same capabilities, things like our purchase request types or PR types, vendors, locations, all of the core functions are still the same, just the look is a little different. From here, this is also where we're buying things like expense types. In this case, I'm looking at buying something like an office supply. It also supports functionality for items, and we can also include things like comment lines now. So as mentioned, this does give users more ability to add comments directly within requisitions that they maybe want printed on the PO itself, as well as adding comments down at the bottom, both internal and external, like, I need this ASAP, run out of paper. So internal comments will just go through to procurement, external comments will actually be printed on the request and the PO itself. So what we've enhanced here is there's now we have approvers as well as budget checking. And when users are actually processing this, they have something now called verify. So before they actually go to submit a request, they can verify the document. This will trigger any errors that come through and give them any error messages. So if I go to verify my document, it will run through the verification process, tell me who the approvers need to be, as well as if I'm over or under budget.
Yes, I was just going to say this is the equivalent of applying the approval workflows, the budget checking, and the validation sort of all at once in one step with the verification.
And here I can see that it's assigned my approvers, and it's assigned that manager approver on this because this is for the brand and location. Along with purchase requisitions, we also have payment requests, which function very similar, but instead of becoming a purchase order, go directly into AP and become an invoice. So payment requests function similar. They also look the same. And here, if I run through that process and verify again, here it will tell me that I'm actually going to exceed my budget. So it's giving the user a warning that yes, you're going to exceed your budget. Would you like to continue anyway? If I select yes, it will say okay and give me that budget warning. So getting into the approvals piece, this is another huge area where we've added a lot of enhancements. So we've improved the configuration options within approvals. We've added additional filters for things like GL accounts, PR types, and expense type categories. Previously, approvals within NAV in 2016 could only be run based on a dimension value. We've added a ton of enhancements here so that they can also be run on things like GL accounts, purchase request types, and expense types. You can now group approvers, and there's also full integration of approvals to position class and position. So if you are using our HR solution, you can integrate your approvals to run off of a position itself, which is huge. I think one of the biggest pains on the finance side is moving people between roles as they change positions. So if they are integrated with HR, as people move positions, it will automatically update those approvers. So we've done this. It's been a huge request, and I think it really improves the overall experience of setting up the approvals and how they run. So taking a look at our approvers from our accounting manager role center, we can actually take a look and see how some of these are set up and how they'll look. So if I look at my approval rules and my approval setup, we now have finance approval rules and finance approval setup. So finance approval rules now have the ability to be different between purchase requisitions and payment requests. So previously, any approval rules that you set up were going to be the same for both requisitioning and requests. We can now actually set up separate approval rules for each of them. So if you have a different procurement policy that requires specific rules versus invoicing policies, these can be dealt with in the system now. We have the ability to select things like all level approves or just the last level approves, and also whether or not we want to allow self-approval. So we can choose to allow self-approval always, never, or only if no other approvers exist. So within our finance approval rules, this is probably one of the biggest changes. Is previously we really just had a vertical list of approvers by dimension, value, by level. Now we have essentially what is an approval matrix. So what we're looking at here are the finance approvals for requisitioning and requests. So here I have different things like for an IT. This would be an IT approval for anything over $1,000, and it's actually using my department filter. Now, what a huge change is that we now have the option of not just assigning users to approvals, we have the option of assigning groups. So within this, I can say that someone within the IT administration group needs to approve a request over $1,000 for IT. Along with that, as I mentioned, looking at the position approvals, we can set up approval groups assigned to positions so that the manager or the budget owner is the one who needs to approve them. Now, if those users change, you can change them within the approval groups, or if their position changes and you're fully integrated, they'll update as well. So it really adds a lot of enhancements. You can still also assign specific users to approvals. So if you have someone who's in charge of a specific program and it's just their program to control, you can still assign users, and you can use a mix of all of them in order to really achieve the approvals that you need. We still have our amount threshold approvers that you'll see here, as well as our dimensions. Now, what's huge here is that we can now combine dimensions for approvals. So whereas previously we could just have a dimension approval on center and then maybe a separate one on program, we can now stack the two together in order to create that approval. So every time this program hits this center, I need to approve it. Every time this program hits that center, someone else needs to approve it. And as mentioned, we now also have the ability to filter on things like PR types. So if specific users need to approve things like a blanket PO, IT items, they can go and approve those here. As well as I mentioned, we can now also set up different approvals by document type. So if we need different approvals by requests or requisitions, that's now available. So when a user is actually approving within the system, when they come into their department manager role center, they'll see any requests that they have to approve. Here I can see that I have one request to approve. It's a purchase requisition. And if I go ahead and open the record, I can then see the full details of the request. Now this is a request, you can see that I'm the sender. This is actually a request that I pushed through and I'm a delegate on it. So if I go ahead and approve my request, it will approve, and it will give me full auditability of the approver and whether or not it was approved by a delegate. So now that that's been approved, if I go and click on my purchase requisitions, it will be an approved request, and I'll actually be able to drill in and see all the approvals. So I can see who the approver was.
And Stephanie, what we're seeing is that there also tends to be more efficiency with this new setup, right? Where we're ending up with fewer areas to manage, and it's easier, especially with either the position assignments or the approval groups, that it's much easier to maintain in terms of if there's someone senior that's on a whole bunch of different dimensions as one of the layers in the approval, you don't have to go to 30, 40, 50 different places to update that one user. It's just a single approval group.
It's a single, yeah, and it makes a huge difference. Instead of individually assigning permissions to individual users, you just assign it to a group now, and you keep the groups updated. I think that for at least all of the clients who have either started in migration or started new projects, it's been probably one of the biggest wins for them, is that it's so much less maintenance. Because yeah, you could very, very easily have thousands upon thousands of approval lines, whereas now it's much more limited. So along with the approvals, we also get into the budget checking. So we've also had enhancements to budget checking within the system. Previously, budget checking was mostly only within the employee center on items like purchase requests and payment requests. We now have the ability to budget check on additional items like purchase orders and purchase invoices. So where you can still see the budget where you normally would within the system on your chart of accounts, you can now actually run budget checking as you're doing different transactions as well. So also previously, the budget checking between Employee Center and the budget checking that you may see done on the chart of accounts was sometimes slightly different. It didn't always necessarily give the exact same result depending on configuration. That's now been aligned, and it's a lot easier to, everyone's viewing the same information and the same details throughout the system. So within the budget checking, if I just go back to my Accounting Manager Role Center, I'll see on the chart of accounts that I still have budget views available, but as mentioned, they're now aligned with what the budget checking on requisitioning would be. So if I go into here and say I look at my income statement accounts, I can now see things like my budgeted amounts, pre-commitments, which would be any requests that are approved but not yet converted into a PO or an invoice, commitments, which would be any active purchase orders in the system, net change, and then my resulting budget available. I also have things on my fact box, like my little items here where I can see visually, whether or not I'm over or under budget. So from here, I can now get the same result when I'm looking at calculations of what is the budget actually doing. Another really great area in the system that's been enhanced is called account set analysis. It allows users to look at budget details by account sets, which has been, I think, a huge request from a lot of our customers. So within account set analysis, I can just flip to say, view all of my active account sets within the system. And here it will show me by account set what my budgets, pre-commitments, commitments, and actual net changes. This is, I think, huge for a lot of people, especially within education where the majority of your coding is done by account set or dimension combination versus the GL account itself. So this then gives you a similar view to the chart of accounts view, but directly within the system based on the account set. Within the budget checking itself, we also have the ability to set up rules like percentages and amounts, and the budget checking will adhere to a tolerance. So here there's a tolerance for 1% or $10. This could be lower to 0 or higher if required. We can also choose what dimensions we're actually budget checking against, whether it's all dimensions or only some, as well as what GL accounts we're actually going to budget check on, which for a lot of people will only be your income statement accounts or maybe all of your accounts. Here we can then decide what we want to do when the budget is exceeded. Do we want just a warning or a complete error and the user cannot proceed? This can be dependent on each individual document that someone's working on. And then finally, we choose what budget we're checking against by fiscal year. So here we're checking against the 2020 budget. So to give an example, we were able to see the budget on the requisitions and in the Department Manager Role Center But as a back office finance user, they'll also now see that budget checking within the system. So if I go into, say, a purchase invoice, and I'm looking at something here where it's for a large insurance amount, maybe I do have budget, maybe I don't have budget. But I now have the option to budget check within purchase invoices and purchase orders as well. When I budget check here, it will actually open the budget checking line and will tell me the full details of what it's checking. So here I can see that I actually have no budgeted amount and I will be fully over my budget value. And when I go to release that invoice, it will also run through budget checking and tell me whether or not the budget will be exceeded. In this way, it's only giving me an error or a warning. If I had set up errors, it would actually prevent me from proceeding at this point. Here, I'll say yes and release it. So aside from budget checking, another huge enhancement is the ability to have remote and mobile access. So as James mentioned, one of the huge wins is that Sparkrock 365 is now available anywhere. You're not limited by the computer that you're on. You're not limited by being on a VPN or within your local network. You can access it on any device at any time, whether that's a laptop, tablet, or phone. There is specific apps within the store in order to access it, and it really gives a great enhancement to the user experience. And then that takes us through my demonstration.
Definitely some really exciting features. It's remarkable how many of the enhancement requests and ideas portal items have our team was able to sort of fold into the Sparkrock 365 release. So just in terms of wrap up, so this is our quote for this series, and that's the same Maslow as the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So in any given moment, we have two options: to step forward or into growth, or to step backwards into safety. So hopefully there's some motivation there in terms of considering what can happen for your organization with Sparkrock 365 or in other areas that you see the same sort of decision-making process. Just to, where to go from here. So we recommend that you continue to explore Sparkrock 365 through the webinar series. You can, if you do want to understand further what an upgrade means to you right away, then please reach out to the your customer care rep or your account executive to discuss that further. So that's, that's other folks on the same team as Genya, and they can help you navigate through that decision-making process. So just a quick reminder about the next one in the series. So if your focus is more on the HR, payroll, scheduling, time entry side of the house, then join me July 23rd with Jennifer Mears as we do a similar session, giving you a kind of a survey of what's new in the workforce side of the solution. So.
And I just wanted to remind everyone that we will be sharing the recording of the webinar, so you will be able to go over all of the slides and hear James and Stephanie speak. You may have questions at that time, but I would like to thank you again for joining us today, and hope that you have a great day ahead and the fantastic weekend as well. Thank you very much.
Yes,
Thanks
thank
so much,
you,
everybody.
everyone.
Take care.